Hello and welcome to A Moment with Vivacious. It's still the revolution, the real American Revolution, the one that has to happen. And I'm so very excited today to have with us Ms. Y.T. Bell, Councilwoman of Clarkston. How are you today?
I'm good. How you doing?
Great.
That's good.
You know, when I read her bio, I said, this girl started school from her mom's womb. But I want to talk about her, and I want to present you from my side of the world.
Yeah, I'm open to it.
Because I think it's very important at this point in this time in this season. You know, like they told Esther in the Bible, you were created for such a time as this.
Right.
And we're thankful to have you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so this is very hard for me, I'll be honest with you. Talking about myself.
Girl, you're a superstar. What?
So I am Yterenickia is my real name, and I go by YT Bell. And originally I'm from Sandersville, Georgia, which is about 3 hours south of the metro Atlanta area. So I'm from the rural part of the state. And my grandma raised me. My mom was present, but my grandma raised me because she was a younger mom. And, you know, just always had a passion to serve other people and just have an impact. And so because of that, I got into public service. You know, I've been a lobbyist. I've been a community advocate. And of course, I'm always going to be an organizer despite the title that I have.
Yeah. Tell us about some of your titles.
Yeah, so I currently work as a senior advisor for voting for the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights in DC. And I do the state work, so the federal voting rights work, but also we have priority states that we work with partners in, and we monitor some of the legislation that has impacted, will impact voters in those states. And in addition to that, I'm Councilwoman Bell. I'm the youngest Black woman to ever serve on our Clarkston City Council. In addition to that, I'm Professor Bell, so I'm also a part-time instructor at Georgia State University, where I teach in the social work department. And so those are a few of my titles. I don't really do titles. You can always call me YT.
Well, my title for you is Sister All Day.
I receive and accept that title.
Yes, I'm very proud to have met you, and you know, I'm always following you.
Yay, thank you.
I'm the lead of your fan club. But I want to talk about today. You know, we have some very serious things to talk about, and the state of politics today. What made you choose politics? Because you have different degrees. You have political science. That is one, but you also have
Criminal justice.
Criminal justice.
I have a master's in social work and a master's in public administration with a concentration in economic development planning. All of those are centered around people, right? And so if you want to improve people's quality of life in the most expedient manner, then it is through the policy. As a social worker, I know that firsthand, right? I was a social worker providing direct services to folks, and that helps them in that moment, but you got to think long term, and so that's where the policy piece comes into play. And to be quite frank with you, I never thought I was going to be in policy. I thought that I was just going to figure out a way to serve people in the community. Never thought that, you know, I would work in the state legislature, monitor bills on the Fed side, or even engage with congressmen and congresswomen. And so that is new to me altogether. But I had an opportunity while I was in my master's program for social work to take a job with Planned Parenthood, and I became the legislative coordinator. And so through that experience, I was able to monitor and track legislation in Georgia state legislature, but also help and support in Mississippi and Alabama. And so from there, I grew a passion and realized that if I want to make the most immediate change that will impact generations for decades, it is through the policy.
So it was your passion that drew you to politics. It wasn't your education. Could anything have prepared you for being in politics today, such as it is?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't think anything outside of life experience can prepare you, quite frankly, for politics. I mean, every day is something different, right? And you're trying to find solutions that will have an impact on people's lives. And sometimes you're just not prepared for all the things that are going to come across you, like COVID, right? No elected official could have been prepared for COVID and the impact it was going to have on people's lives, as well as the other things that it was going to show us that have been inhibiting people's lives way before COVID, but was magnified due to the pandemic. And so I think that my education was great, but quite frankly, it was life experience of working with people, talking to people. Because politics, a lot of it is about building relationships and being able to navigate this new normal that you're in, but also knowing who are the nonprofits that may have done the research, or who can you rely on to help you come up with the best solution. Because as an elected official, I always say I never know everything, but I have some friends and I have some folks that I trust that can help me get to the best solution for my residents.
That's the best part about it for me, because if we had more people that felt like you, we could work and begin to build a true democracy again.
Yeah, it's a collaborative process, right?
Right. It has to be if it's gonna work.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, sometimes we only see one-sided perspective on things, and that is not indicative of the people that we serve throughout the country, but also it doesn't help us sustain or retain our democracy, and we know right now it's definitely at stake.
I'm gonna put it in my words because I don't remember the exact words, but I wanted to remember the exact words. Y'all know I am. But there was a statement when I was reading about you that really had me cling to you. And it was that I don't want to be like everybody else. This is my words, it's not her words, okay? I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to make laws that will begin to even chip away at the unfairness and the injustice that's done to a certain group of people. Now, you deal with a lot of groups of people.
Right.
Can we talk about that? Because that means the world to me.
So, as a city council person in the city of Clarkston, for those that don't have any context or knowledge about the city of Clarkston, it's the most diverse 1.75 square miles in the country. Up to 16 languages are spoken there. And so we're this very dynamic but unique, very unique city. And so we have unique challenges, what I call them. I don't call them problems. I call them opportunities most of the time, but sometimes they're unique challenges. And so with that, I want to make sure that I serve the most vulnerable, those that have been left out of decisions in the past, those that still need all of the support, and not always lean in to trying to find solutions for their problems, because 10 times out of 3, a lot of them, they are unaware about government and how it works, but they also just don't have the time or capacity because they have their own lives and other dependents, and working multiple jobs and just trying to live, to be honest with you, day by day. And so that's why I lean into serving the most vulnerable population I get to serve in the city of Clarkston.
I had some jewelry sent in from another country, and I had to go down to this little shopping area, and it was like being in another country. The way the shops were set up and everything, it reminded me of being on an island.
Yeah, people say we are on an island, right, of our own, and I think that's what makes us a great city, because we have different cuisines there. You have people from different backgrounds. You get to learn so much about individuals that this changes and causes you to grow. I mean, me personally, I can speak for myself, definitely has expanded my knowledge about the way of life in other countries and things we need to do to adapt and create some familiarity, quite frankly, in our city, as well as the gaps, right? Some of the knowledge that I thought that people just knew or just had some recollection to, that is not always the truth. So you have to sometimes take yourself out of it and lean into listening to people, and you can learn so much. That way it helps them for the long term.
And it can't be easy. I mean, with all of these different groups of people, but we didn't get two different, recently we had a big discussion on Roe versus Wade. It was only two sides, right, and there was no way we were going to bring them together, okay? So how, you have to have some part in having these people come together and unite.
Yeah, so you talk to the people in the community they trust, right? Because remember now, and this is me being honest, and this is what you'll get all the time, is the real reality is a lot of individuals had to flee persecution due to government. And so being an elected leader, I'm not always the one that they trust. But what I do with relationships and working with the community service providers that we have in the community is finding out who is it that is that community leader and somebody that they do trust, to have that conversation with them, to bring them closer so that we can come together or find solutions. I'll give an example of this. We had Black Lives Matter march in the city of Clarkson, and people have different opinions. I led on that, and I started working with key stakeholders in the community, in the business community. I got all of the pastors to come together, and members of clergy and other religious leaders from the mosque to all come together and kind of unify us, right? Despite our differences, we all believe in prosperity and desire peace. And so with that, we came together for that event, and it was a great event. There were no issues or anything. And it kind of just denounced that we can come together and unify, and we'll have no issues. So you have to find those trusted partners and trusted leaders in our community to bring us together. Because it can be a challenge sometimes, but we work through them, to be honest with you, and it's not an overnight success. It has taken us years to get here, and we're still trying to figure out how to manage and tackle some of the issues that our community members face.
I'm sitting here thinking right now, man, this is beautiful. But when you say they had to flee their country from the torment of government, it's almost like if we don't have America to flee to, where are we gonna flee? And America's government is slowly going downhill as far as trust is concerned.
Yeah, polls show and focus groups show that the regular voter has lost trust in government and enthusiasm. And so, to your point, we have to figure out how to regain that trust, but we have to meet people where they are. And we have to stop having like these high-level conversations with folks, but more so like talking about the issues that impact their everyday life, like the issues that are impeding on them feeding their families, like getting to the real conversations and real issues with folks to have them feel like, oh, I can trust them. And I think right now, to be honest with you, a lot of it falls on local government. We saw during the pandemic, whether the state decided one thing, localities had to come back and say, hey, for the betterment of our communities, this is what we're gonna do, and this is what we're gonna move forward. And I think that's another incentive as to why we need individuals to show up in our local races, because we have the lowest turnout. But we impact your everyday life, the roads.
Right, we have the biggest role to play.
Right.
And maybe we'll get a chance to talk about some of that, but I'm going to talk about an issue at hand right now. After the pandemic, which is really not over.
No, definitely not.
Because, I'm a nurse. At night, we're seeing, and right now I'm working mental health. We're having to have set off areas again for COVID-19, and winter's not here yet.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the winter's gonna hold. So it's not all over.
Right.
But what are we gonna do about, like you were saying, the everyday expenses of life? Rent went up ridiculously. I saw in one apartment building, I was helping a lady look for an apartment. I saw in one apartment building, the rent go from $1,100 to $1,700. Is there anything our local government can do to step in to stop that?
So we are preempted on a lot of things in local government by the state government, the honest truth. One of the things that we've done in the city of Clarkson is made an initiative and plan to have diversified housing options. And so that means having stuff that is $300 and $400 a month to be more affordable, because affordability looks different based off of the individual, their background, things of that nature. But we're trying to have an array of housing options to kind of combat that expensive rent, and I have 4 or 5 dependents and I can't afford to live there. I mean, the other thing is we've definitely started to have those conversations with our property managers on why everything is going up. And so we're trying to tackle that with them. The other thing that we did was we provided rent assistance. We were one of the initial cities in DeKalb County to provide it, in addition to all the services that the county provided, but to ensure that we could keep people in their homes, right? And because they had fallen behind due to the financial hardship that they had faced due to the pandemic, whether that meant they were working these hourly jobs and couldn't get there, Or now, you know, the kids were in school, now they're at home, and so just expenses have risen, right? And so we put in programs, even not even just for rent, right, for mortgage assistance as well, because we did see a lot of our homeowners, you know, fall into some hardship and could not pay their mortgages. And so, you know, as city government, the federal government has given us lots of funds, whether it was COVID funds or ARPA funds, American Rescue Funds. And so we're trying to use those appropriately to meet the challenges that our constituents are facing. And so those are a couple of options. As it relates to housing, we have a new development that just did their ribbon cutting a couple of months ago. Rent is as low as $400 a month.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back.
Okay.